Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Thursday's video. This is going to be start video. I think I'm uploading 3 videos including this one today. So yeah, let's just get into it. We're going to be talking about the boss battles, champions that I use, champions that I think would be quite fun and effective, and just going over some of the boss fights as well. So let's get into this. First interaction up is the one with Wolverine. As you know, Wolverine gets regeneration, but the little snag with this is Vigorous Assault. While the defender has regen buff, they gain plus 65% attack rating and their attacks become unblockable. I would say there are several options for this. If you're worried against the unblockable, use the likes of Red Guardian. But let's face it, if you can stagger, it means that obviously that regen is not going to come up. So champions that do provide stagger, like Dr. Doom, I think Hood does, so many others that throw up that. But as well, check out ones that are heal blocking enemies because they can be helpful as well. Archangel all the way for me. Also champions that cast Petrify, and as well have interactions with the healing side of things, which look, champions might still go unblockable with the likes of with Warlock throwing out his infection, but still if you're suppressing and reducing it down, then just keep your distance, but stagger will be the way to go with this, or maybe champions that nullify certain buffs like regen for this. This is a very straightforward fight though. Same thing really applies for Sabretooth, and actually I think Archangel is probably the GOAT of this month. And if you look at the fact, obviously, suppressing a lot of regen factors to this, and the same champions you can see on the left-hand corner, they seem to be the one to use. The Sabretooth fight, the best thing I'd probably say is stick to an SP1 as much as possible. Even though the enemy has enhanced special 1, yes, it's the case it's unblockable, just keep your distance. Even though it's encouraged to kind of stay away from the enemy, this is the thing about putting like debuff effects on, but as well something that's some kind of like interaction. That's why it's always good to go to a champion like Warlock, because you're suppressing that regeneration and as well applying a good amount and healthy amount of damage as well. However though, do watch out for the following, which is while the attacker is suffering from a debuff, the defender gains a passive fury. So that's probably something to watch out. Don't try and get a debuff effect on you. And that's obviously the thing with Suicide Masteries being a little bit underwhelmed based on this type of interaction. But most of the champions on the left hand corner will be effective, plus others that heal block and do other kind of interactions with having class advantage and suppressing, like Warlock, Sentinel and so much more. Next up, in Vulture, just a champion's best sticking to spamming the SP1 as much as possible. SP1s are the way and the easiest thing to avoid from this champion. And as well, do watch out for the miss. I know there are certain champions that kind of work around with bypassing it, like Tigra, so that could be a cool option. Got a Light is a little bit annoying, and I would say that champions that interact well with the Incinerate debuff could be quite helpful, but it's not something to overly worry about. You got Hit Me, I Dare You, which gives the enemy an armor buff, and this is why I had and utilized Corvus Glaive. It was probably the best option for this, but there are other champions like, okay, if you got Iceman, then yeah, okay, it's a class disadvantage. Is it a case it does save you from like Incinerate damage? Yes, but then so many other champions do. Cat Marvel Movie sees you an energy bump up very quickly, class advantage, doing armor breaks, probably one of the solid options to take against this. And as well, Aegon's really not needed, but you know, Aegon's a GOAT. And then you've got Medusa there, who's another option, obviously to put armor breaks against that lovely armor buff that the champion is going to get. And as I said, the fight playing out is more easy just to kind of like, when the SP1 is thrown, just keep your distance and come back in again. If you're worried about the miss side of things, that's something that's like, it does happen. But look, you know, if you've got champions that interact quite well, like Iceman, and just you feel like to yourself, oh no, I'm going to get hit, at least you've got that ice armor to protect you when that situation happens, and you can just tick damage on the enemy. To be honest, most champions that do a lot of damage, like Archangels and Mega Reds, even with class disadvantage, the likes of your Quakes, anything could be a real kind of like handy thing here against this champion. Okay, now onto a bit of a fun boss, and that is Joe Fixit. Joe Fixit gets Hurt Locker, so don't do the same special, you know, after one another. And as well, this champion throws SP1s like there's no tomorrow, which is a bit of a pain in the butt because you do get a lot of bleed damage off that. And encroaching stun means every 20 seconds you will be put into a stun if you do not throw a special attack in that time. And there are times when you can make mistakes with this, and obviously the more debuffs you do on the enemy, the more it's going to affect the power gain rate. So there's a lot of kind of things to take into consideration, a lot of things that could be a little bit kind of frustrating. And I would say in this one, depending on how you play this, it may be best to go power control or not, or use a champion like Rogue. Rogue's pretty good because she's got power control, and as well she has got lifesteal, and as well she can shrug off debuff effects pretty effectively, which can be handy for that 20-second stun, and as well obviously when it comes to like power controlling off the SP2. But as well, I think it's the shrugging off of the debuff effects, because that SP1 is going to eat you with a lot of bleed damage. Havoc's a fun interaction with this. Mordo is an equally fun interaction because of the shrugging off of the stun, kind of like that particular effect. Obviously, the Astral Evade, which can be helpful to then, even with class disadvantage, to throw some degen on the enemy. Iceman's a cool interaction, but it's not a viable one to take down the power control side of things, but is a cool option if you, after 20 seconds, say, make a mistake, don't time your special too well. And also the length of which it lasts can be quite helpful, because when you throw it, you could throw it on like 17 seconds and find for maybe 18 seconds, and then find that it's still throwing and then sees you over. So just kind of like with ice armor helps the mistake. And as well, you've got Green Goblin with the extent of obviously damage you're going to be taking. An Awakened version I think is better for this kind of like idea. But yeah, maybe even a champion that's power control, like Dr. Doom, even though it's class disadvantage, could actually be a viable option because, you know, it's quick power building. Hyperion's another option because you're literally just building up power control. Hyperion's probably the better option, but do bear in mind that you will, when you ramp up damage off the SP1, you'll be throwing Incinerates, and Incinerates, as you know, will trigger redoubled determination, so you'll find yourself be eating specials all the time, so you might want to push to SP2 if you can. Hyperion may be the way to go with this fight. Now on to Sasquatch. Now with Sasquatch, there's not really much to talk about except for like a high hit pool, good amount of damage that he does. But here's the thing, there are various options to take on this guy. Now, I used Archangel. I just found this was a really kind of like decent interaction. It is a cheesy method to kind of utilize, but there are other champions which will go on in a minute. And as well, Rage of the Beast, not too much of an issue because it's like, yeah, just kind of like part and parcel with taking down the enemy. Nothing really to worry about in my opinion. SP1 seems the best thing to avoid on this champion, and I ended up just kind of smacking him down. But I've put some options here, like Warlock for the well, you know, power control. You got a little bit of kind of like heal dealing with if for whatever reason the champion regens, because it is a possibility. Other champions as well that can do things with power control going to be helpful. Your Dr. Dooms, Void, you know, loads of debuffs, petrify, those kind of things. You can even do like the cross fight ability with Mr. Fantastic. Put attack on your team, use Beardo with it, class advantage. You know, there's lots of options there that are class advantage and helpful that could take down this champion fairly straightforward. So yeah, these are cool options to take against it, and yeah, didn't really have much trouble with this. Obviously Archangel all the way, 4-star Archangel, 5-star Archangel, you know, this will be a pretty straightforward fight. And finally on to Guardian. Now Guardian's got some pretty cool little node bonuses, like Turtling, that's a nod to a tortoise I think. But anyway, the attacker hasn't landed a hit in 6 seconds. Defender gains an indefinite armor buff. Now, that's probably the main thing to work out. And I'd say the shock damage. Shock damage is the issue, I think, with Guardians, so going up against him. Having champions that shock immune could be quite helpful. Or champions that interact with it. Now, I did try, or kind of think about trying, Ronan, because if you're not going to throw a hit, then keep your distance. You know, build up to an SP1, smack in at SP1, and then start building on a constant stun based on him having the armor up buff. And it's still something I'm going to try and work around with to see if I can achieve. But I got too much time like hit with shock damage, which, you know, was just not nice, because I was just like losing all my health all the time. Now Medusa, again, same principle. It didn't really work out too well. Yes, it armor braked, and that's fine. That will do that. But again, it's that shock damage to watch out for. Therefore, champions that interact well with shock could be more helpful for this. With the likes of Cat Marvel Movie having armor break, which helps against those armor debuffs. Not armor buff, sorry, so you get armor break against the buff, and then obviously you got to build up with shock. If you get shocked, you build up your charges quicker. That means obviously you're going to go into binary a lot quicker and smash out the enemy with a good amount of damage, and then obviously ride the heavy attacks to victory. The same thing could be said with Dr. Doom, who has some excellent shock interaction, being shock immune, and as well doing stagger to suppress those armor buffs actually coming up on the enemy, and as well putting in some great amount of damage down the line as well. So there's a lot about that, and not to mention obviously the likes of Corvus Glaive. Corvus Glaive interacts very well. Armor break debuffs are put on in conjunction with the armor buff being put on by Guardian, and as well obviously the champion stays alive longer if you can build them up on the relevant paths leading up to it, which, let's face it, you'll probably get, you know, in some cases two charges at least against or missions completed against this stuff leading into this particular fight. So that's been my top picks of champions to use and effectiveness when it comes to Uncollected. Obviously, put in the comment section who you used and who was most effective in. And that's been a video. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to check out some of the content that I posted yesterday, which I'll probably put up there over Guardian's face or something. You've got another couple of videos coming out today. Tomorrow is going to be a pretty massive day because we're going to be doing some Iron Man VR. It's obviously the deals as well are going to be dropping. Not to mention the fact that I've got to get a new 5-star featured crystal opening done. Haven't decided when. But yeah, hopefully I'm not going to overload you with content too soon. But there's a lot of stuff to go over in the game. And effectively, we've got one more dev diary to come out. And I don't know when that's going to be. If it's going to be tomorrow. I don't really know at this moment in time. It's pretty mega. Lots of stuff. And I'll see you all very soon in some more videos. Bye-bye for now.